Welcome back to another book review. Thank you for joining me. Get comfortable. Don't get too comfortable because it's not going to be that long. Today we're going to be reviewing the Athena Protocol by Shamim Serif. This book was described to me as James Bond but women, so I didn't even hesitate to pick it up. I definitely have a few issues with that recommendation alone. But before I get into that, let me just tell you what the book is about. So the book centers around this group of women spies called Athena, and they focus on protecting specifically young women and girls who have been victims of trafficking. And our main character, Jessie, is the daughter of one of the founders. So there's three founders and then three more younger girls who join. So it's a very small, kind of tight knit organization. And as the book opens, Jessie disobeys their one rule, which is do not shoot, like do not kill anyone, and she kills their target. So she gets dropped from Athena and she kind of goes rogue and heads for their mission because she knows more about it than they do. So it's essentially Jessie trying to do her mission and also escape being hunted by her own team, if that makes sense. That was probably the worst synopsis I've ever given in my life. But it's good. I was expecting very kind of Black Widow vibes, maybe, which on my part was a little bit optimistic, but definitely female James Bond vibes. And I would say in some ways we got that, but in the main way for me, it personally didn't live up to that. But before I get into what I didn't like about the book, I'm going to go into the good things. The first thing to say about this book is I read this all in one sitting. I felt like it was relatively fast paced. I didn't really struggle with it. There were a few points where it slowed down a little bit, but not enough for me to put it down. I read this all in one sitting in one day. Another good thing I really enjoyed about it is the characters I felt were relatively dynamic, and the few that we got that we spent a lot of time with, I felt like they were very flawed, but they also had a lot of good parts to them, which I like to see. I like to see characters that aren't just black and white. They felt, especially Hala in this book, I really enjoyed her and Jesse's relationship with her and how they kind of strengthen. Probably the standout of this book is the mother daughter relationship between Jessie and her mum, Kit, who's also in this Athena organization. The thing that I love most about it is it's very rocky. There's clearly a lot of issues between them. However, by the end, it's not just completely resolved, but it's on like an upward path, which I feel like is really good with books because a lot of the time when you have these relationships between characters, especially family, it's very quick to just wrap them up at the end and pretend like they're fine and they've gotten over it. When if you've had family problems, you know it's not that easy. So I really liked the fact that this book didn't just ignore everything that happened between them and it hinted at them slowly building their relationship back rather than just getting it like that. Another thing I liked about it was the sapphic subplot of our main character Jessie having romantic feelings to another woman in the book and then by the end actually addressing the fact that oh, maybe I do like women, that was like a big part of it, which I really did enjoy that. Also, female spies. Come on. Female spies, the whole concept of Athena, the organization being based after the goddess Athena, the goddess of justice, of war, things like that. I really loved that. Now to get onto the things that I didn't fully love. This was probably my fault, but I didn't realise going into this that it was YA. I was under the impression that it was adult, and partly that's because of the James Bond comp. It was compared to James Bond, which made me think this was a grown up, mature group of women. First of all, I thought it was going to be a big organization of women, like Black Widow, like this big organization of spies that all work together and they all have a little part. And like, I really thought it was going to be like that, but no, there's six women in this group. There's, three adults and three girls my age. And I feel like the fact that Jessie, I think she's like between she could be anywhere between 18 and 20. I don't know. Like she's my age, if not younger, which I'm 20. So that made it very difficult to suspend my disbelief. And by that I mean the three adult women don't usually get involved in the contact. So it's just these three younger women. And I can't remember how old the other two are, but I just find that hard to believe that it's these young girls who are getting into fights where they are up against men so much bigger than them and they keep winning. I love to see women kick men's ass, but it has to be in a believable way because if you just show me like a very tiny woman absolutely decking a 6'5" man, I'm not going to believe it. So, what I like to see usually is a more grown up woman who has a lot of muscle or uses at least her skills in a way that makes sense. Like with Black Widow, she's. I'm going to talk about her a lot with this book because that's kind of what I wanted from this. But with Black Widow, she uses I mean, she's not the greatest kind of advocate for what I want to see in a woman spy because the directors and the writers handled her poorly in a lot of ways. However, she's a good enough representation in the fact that she uses things like her legs and she uses weapons as well that help her fight, which then makes it a bit more believable when she's going up against these enemies. Like, especially this main character, it was just hard to believe that she's successful in this kind of group, and it just made me wish that this was aged up a lot more. If these women were like late 20s, I feel like I would have loved this so much more. If they were late 20s, then you wouldn't have justification to Jessie's behaviour. Her behaviour at times felt very juvenile, very young, very misguided, and I'm aware that a lot of people don't like her. I personally don't mind her. I feel like at times she was definitely a bit difficult and unlikable. However, I didn't find it hard enough that I didn't want to continue, and she did have growth by the end. I just don't think, personally, because of how young these girls are, that this can be compared to James Bond. Because if I'm thinking of a female James Bond, I want a grown woman. I want a grown woman with muscles and skill and intelligence and control. Like, I don't want, oh, a woman James Bond, but she's her biggest struggle is trying to deal with her emotions and her impulses. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that. I want to see women James Bond, like badass spies, like Black Widow. I think I just need to watch the movie. So that was probably my biggest gripe with the book. Another thing that I didn't like is, I said this in my last review, this is a spoiler. I feel like I need to just preface my reviews are all pretty much going to be spoilers always. One thing I didn't like about this specifically was the unhappy ending for the sapphic relationship. The book that I reviewed in my last video, We Call Them Witches, that also had an unhappy ending to the sapphic relationship, and this was an unhappy ending. Let girls be together. I don't care if I'm reading like a straight book and the man and woman and either of them betrays each other. I don't care. Just let them do it. But my girls, please let them be happy. Don't let them hurt each other. I don't like to see that. So that was annoying. I mean, it was quite predictable, but because I did kind of like the way that these girls interacted, I was a bit annoyed when one betrayed the other. And again, my big issues with this book are mainly to do with my expectations of it, like what I went in thinking I was going to get from it that I didn't get. And that was, I thought it was going to be a much bigger organisation of grown women. So if that's what you're looking for, if that's what you want out of this book, like something like James Bond or John Wick almost, where it's this like spy organisation that operates in the real world, they're very technical and they have all these secret methods and practices, and they're grown up and they're strong and talented. That's not what you're going to get out of this. It was a fun read, it was thrilling, I liked a lot of the moments in it. However, it's just intended for a younger audience, which is my fault because this probably does come under YA, like if I was to search it up, but I didn't do a lot of research on it. I went based purely on vibes. I am going to be giving the book 3 stars simply because I wouldn't read another book that's like this, where it's younger girls doing all this kind of unbelievable spy stuff. I would much rather read about an actual woman James Bond, where it's like bigger women and older women, and they're really doing it. However, if I read this when I was younger, I would have loved it. I would have absolutely eaten this up, and I did eat this up in one day. Brag. However, it's just not something that I would personally go for again. But I'm giving it 3 stars because there was still a lot to love in it. Like I said, the mother-daughter relationship, the sapphic relationship, the characters. I did love it. However, not enough to want to read something exactly the same. Definitely not in the same age range. I want something a little bit older. But very good book if you like thrillers, if you like spy, espionage, if you like that kind of idea of a spy getting discharged from their organisation and then going rogue. I feel like you should still definitely give this a shot because that part of the plot was really good. I did like that. But there were just a few things that really tainted my view of it, and I've got it off my chest now so I can rest. I am hoping that I can find the perfect book that can scratch my Black Widow and Sapphic itch. If you have any recs for me, then you know where to find me, right here. But yep, that was my quick review. Let me know what you think, and I'll catch you in the next one.